No one could hear the artifact's voice until he answered it. Under the glare of a pale turquoise sun, the surface of the planet glittered, jagged silver dunes stretching endlessly, interrupted only by a structure, a labyrinth of dark crystal towers, their angles bending reason. Marcus Hale, weathered human explorer, powered down his battered shuttle and stepped out, boots crunching on glassy fragments that sang beneath his weight. For weeks a presence had haunted his dreams, a song echoing through the void, tugging at his soul with a longing that felt older than memory. He drew a shaky breath as he faced the enormous gate, its surface alive, shifting through shades of blue and green, etched with glyphs that twisted and shimmered like living water. Marcus's hand trembled as he lifted his sensor. The device flickered, readings spiking and tumbling in a frenzy as he neared the entrance. The air was sharp, electric, tasting of ozone and unknown minerals. A chill enveloped him as he stepped forward. Inside, the walls pulsed with violet and teal bioluminescence, their glow revealing ancient dust motes swirling in the stillness. Shadows flickered and twisted in the corners, alive with possibility. Alcoves lined the corridor, each holding statues of elegant, inhuman beings. Tall, reptilian, regal, their postures serene but watchful. The song in Marcus's head grew clearer, less a melody now and more a plea, vibrating through marrow and memory. His footsteps echoed as he pressed deeper, the structure sensing his presence. Ancient lights flared along the floor, illuminating patterns that moved with a logic just beyond comprehension. The passage opened suddenly into a colossal hall, its ceiling lost in darkness, the vastness pressing down like a promise or a threat. At the center, a plinth rose from the floor, black crystal laced with veins of silver. Resting atop it was an artifact, crystalline, metallic, radiating a shifting prismatic light that cast rainbows onto the walls and ceiling. Marcus approached, his breath quick and shallow, heart hammering. He felt compelled by more than curiosity, as if an invisible hand guided his every step. "I hear you," he whispered, the words escaping before he realized he'd spoken. His voice echoed across the expanse, meeting itself in the gloom. The artifact responded, flaring brighter, the song swelling into a presence that filled the air and resonated in his bones, ancient, aching, and achingly alone. He reached out. His fingertips grazed the artifact's surface, cool and impossibly smooth. Light erupted, flooding the hall in a blinding surge. The temple trembled, dust raining from the heights. Machinery long dormant stirred, gears grinding, mechanisms cycling to life. On the far side of the hall, a stasis capsule glowed suddenly, its outlines blurring, the surface turning transparent. Within, a figure shifted. Slowly, the capsule opened. She stepped out, tall, slender, her humanoid body covered in iridescent scales that rippled from teal to violet to midnight blue. Her movements were liquid, deliberate, her form both alien and undeniably graceful. Amber eyes with vertical pupils fixed on Marcus, unblinking and predatory. A frilled neck flared as she drew her first breath in centuries. As she moved, armor shimmered into place around her, dark, organic, inscribed with shifting runes. She studied Marcus, head tilting with reptilian precision. "Who trespasses upon the sanctum?" Her voice was musical, each syllable edged with warning, the accent strange, precise. The sound seemed to vibrate in the air, impossibly clear. Marcus lifted his empty hands, showing he meant no harm. "I'm not here to steal," he said. "The artifact called me." She laughed, sharp and crystalline, echoing among the towers and broken statues. "Many have claimed that. None could truly hear. Why are you different?" "I don't know." Marcus's voice was quiet, honest. "That's why you're still here, still waiting." She circled him, steps light on the glassy floor, her gaze never wavering. Her frilled neck shifted with each measured breath. "What did it say to you?" He closed his eyes, searching for the right words. "It's lonely," he murmured. "It wants to be understood. It's afraid." Her expression faltered for the first time, surprise flickering in her amber gaze. The armor around her shifted, softening in hue. "You would attempt the trials? Knowing failure means death?" "I didn't come this far to turn back," Marcus replied, his voice steady, though his heart pounded. She regarded him for a long moment, her alien features unreadable. Then she nodded, the motion subtle but decisive, a hint of respect in the tilt of her posture. "The first trial. Prove you can hear what others cannot." He steadied his breathing, closed his eyes again. The artifact's voice surged within, emboldened by her awakening, weaving through his consciousness with crystalline clarity. "It's asking if you're ready to help, if you can bear the weight of its purpose," Marcus said, voice trembling with awe. "But it fears what comes next." She inhaled sharply, her gaze narrowing, voice barely a whisper. "Impossible. Only the worthy could reach this point." The echo of her words hung in the air, thick with expectation. She gestured to a wall where alien weapons, elegant, deadly, were displayed, waiting for the next step in the trial. "The second trial is of resolve," she said, her voice echoing through the vast crystalline hall. With a flick of her wrist, she sent a crescent-shaped blade spinning toward Marcus. He snatched it from the air, surprised by its weightless warmth and the seamless balance in his grip. Alien symbols glimmered along the blade's edge, as if responding to his touch. He eyed the weapon, uncertain. "I'm no fighter," he admitted, flexing his fingers around the hilt. "Courage is not skill," she replied, watching him with that unsettling, unblinking gaze. "It's standing firm when fear says run." She attacked without warning. Her movement was a flash of midnight and teal, the blade in her hand describing arcs that seemed almost choreographed, each strike flowing into the next, a deadly dance honed over centuries. Marcus barely managed to bring his blade up in time, the clang of alien metal ringing in his bones. He stumbled back, every muscle tensed, sweat already prickling at his brow. She pressed her advantage, her attacks fluid, relentless, forcing him across the glittering floor. Marcus fought to keep up, parrying blows that blurred in his vision, his breath coming ragged. "Why do you hold back?" he gasped between strikes, feeling the pressure mount. Her frilled neck flattened, a subtle tell, hesitation, perhaps regret. "Because I have ended the lives of 8 before you," she said, her tone edged with a sorrow that contradicted her swift, lethal movements. "I would rather not make it 9. The weight of her words landed almost as hard as her strikes. Marcus's foot slipped on the glassy surface, and he crashed to the floor, blade skittering from his grasp. In an instant her blade was at his throat, the edge cool and unyielding against his skin. "Yield?" she asked, her voice softer now, the question hanging in the charged silence. He stared up at her, chest heaving. "No." In a sudden burst he rolled away, fingers scrambling for his weapon. He regained his feet, and this time the blade felt steadier in his hand. Determination steadied his voice, and something in her eyes flickered. Admiration, brief and fierce. They circled each other, tension thrumming in the air. The duel resumed. Marcus learned as he fought, reading her movements, finding the rhythm in her attacks, letting instinct and the artifact's whispers guide him. Each parry became more confident, each block more precise. They moved faster, blades ringing, sweat mingling with the dust of ages. Their blades locked, the metallic shriek echoing through the temple. Suddenly, their faces were close, breaths mingling. Marcus caught a scent, like rain striking hot stone, ancient and new all at once. He saw flecks of gold swirling in her amber eyes, noticed the slight tremor in her grip. She spoke, voice lower, the edge replaced by something raw. "Why risk everything for a voice in your mind?" He met her gaze, unflinching. "Some voices deserve to be heard," he said, his tone softer. "Some risks are worth it." The air between them shifted, the violence of moments ago replaced by something else, an electricity, charged and uncertain. Her lips parted as if to say something more, vulnerability surfacing in the tension of her jaw, the flicker of her gaze. But she stepped back, the moment shrouded once again behind armor and caution. Sheathing her blade, she inclined her head. The third trial is of mind. She beckoned him, leading him away from the dueling ground toward a wall inscribed with star patterns, tangled equations, and ancient script. The surface shimmered beneath her touch, symbols coming to life with faint pulses of light. "Solve the puzzle, prove your worth," she intoned. "Fail, and you must leave." Marcus stepped forward, heart pounding anew, not with fear, but with the weight of expectation. He studied the symbols, spiraling constellations, mathematical notations that seemed to rearrange themselves, fragments of language that flickered at the edge of comprehension. He tried to focus, but it was the artifact's presence that guided him now, whispering in a language he didn't know, yet somehow understood. He realized slowly that the puzzle was not a test of intellect alone, but of trust. The artifact's thoughts slipped into his mind like a tide. He had to open himself, let its consciousness flow with his, allow it to guide his hand as he traced patterns in the starlit wall. He closed his eyes, surrendering. The puzzle's pieces shifted, aligning with a logic that defied words. His fingers danced across the symbols, and a pattern emerged. A star map, lines connecting points across the cosmos, revealing the locations of other sanctuaries like this one, scattered among distant worlds. "There are more," Marcus breathed, awe filling his voice as the answer unfolded before them. A hidden doorway rumbled open, ancient gears grinding in protest as new passage revealed itself. The woman, her name still a mystery, stood stunned, her frill flaring in disbelief. "In centuries, none have unlocked that path," she whispered, the admission thick with reverence and a touch of fear. Marcus turned to her, curiosity gnawing at him. "How long have you been alone here?" he asked gently. Her frill drooped, her posture collapsing inwards, the weight of memory pressing down. "Since the cataclysm, my kin deemed the artifacts too perilous. I volunteered. I was the youngest, disposable." Her voice was flat, but the hurt bled through. He stepped closer, lowering his blade, his tone gentle. "You were never disposable," Marcus said, the words quiet but certain. Her composure cracked. For the first time her eyes shone, not with cold amber light, but with the glimmer of unshed tears. "My world vanished as I slept. The artifact shows me, cities burning, seas evaporating, because no one understood." Without thinking, Marcus reached up and brushed her cheek with the back of his hand. Her skin was unexpectedly warm, smooth beneath the iridescent scales. She leaned into his palm, eyes closing, her guard finally falling away. "I've been so alone," she whispered, voice trembling, fragile as the dust that filled the ancient air. "Not anymore," Marcus said, the promise unspoken between them. Their lips met in a kiss that was urgent and aching, a collision of hope and loneliness, centuries of solitude dissolving in a single breathless moment. He tasted salt and rain, felt the shiver that ran through her as she pressed closer, the armor yielding beneath his touch. When they parted, both were breathless, the world shifting around them. She drew back, the warning in her eyes tempered by longing. "This is dangerous," she murmured, voice husky, tinged with fear and hope. "Danger is what I do best," Marcus replied, grinning despite the gravity of what they faced. She laughed, a sound that was real and bright, echoing off the crystal walls. With renewed purpose, she reached for his hand, her grip strong and sure. Together they stepped through the newly revealed passage, the future uncertain, but no longer faced alone. The corridor here was different, older, alive in a way the others were not, veins of bioluminescence pulsing with each heartbeat of the structure. As Marcus and Lyra stepped forward, the walls seemed to breathe, casting shifting patterns of indigo and emerald across their faces. The atmosphere thickened with power, the very air charged with a presence that pressed against Marcus's mind. Lyra's voice was reverent, almost hushed. "This is the sanctum," she said, her frilled neck trembling with anticipation. "Where the artifact's truths are kept." At the heart of the chamber, a pool of liquid light shimmered, a well of radiance so bright it seemed to burn away shadows. The artifact's presence surged, overwhelming, its song rising into a symphony that crashed against the walls of Marcus's mind. He staggered, caught between awe and terror, every thought reverberating with the artifact's longing. Beneath the beauty, a cold current of fear ran deep, an ancient dread that made his hands shake. Marcus knelt at the edge of the pool, staring into its depths. The light was not merely illumination, it was memory, energy, consciousness. The closer he drew, the clearer the artifact's voice became, trembling with dread. "It's terrified," Marcus breathed, his voice raw. "Of its purpose, of what happens if it's finally understood." Lyra knelt beside him, her scales reflecting ripples of pure light. Their reflections mingled in the shifting pool, human and alien, bound together by fate and choice. Her eyes glimmered, searching his face for answers. "What is its purpose?" He hesitated, the words clawing at his throat. The artifact's plea was desperate, both to be known and to remain hidden. "It's not just a communicator," Marcus said, voice strained. "It's a key. We're about to learn what it unlocks." He plunged his hand into the light. The sensation was neither hot nor cold, but something more primal, a current that tore through flesh and bone and memory, reality fractured. Marcus's senses exploded. He saw galaxies spiral into existence and collapse into darkness, civilizations blossoming and burning away in the blink of a cosmic eye. The song became something deeper, not words, but pure understanding, a language of truth. Lyra gasped and reached for him, her hand sliding into the pool beside his. The torrent seized her as well, and for a moment they were suspended together, two souls adrift in a sea of memory. Their minds touched, overlapping, sharing visions that spanned millennia. They saw the creators, beings of immense stature and grace, skin like living starlight, eyes reflecting the birth of suns. These ancient architects forged the artifacts, binding them into a lattice that stretched across the cosmos. Each sanctuary was a node, each artifact a key, together forming a network capable of reshaping matter and energy, of rewriting reality itself. Lyra shuddered as the memories flooded through her. "They built these as guardians," she whispered, her voice trembling, "but also as wardens, to hold back the chaos that lurked outside." Marcus watched through borrowed eyes as the creators argued, their voices echoing with pride and fear. Some sought to use the power for enlightenment, others for dominion. The network fractured, and war erupted. Ships of impossible design clashing across nebulae, worlds torn apart as the artifact's forces were unleashed. Lyra's people, entrusted as stewards, became pawns and casualties. "They killed each other for this power," Marcus said, his voice hollow with grief. "The power to become gods." The visions shifted, images stuttering and reforming. Marcus saw the downfall of Lyra's world, oceans evaporating, cities reduced to crystal ruins, survivors fleeing into stasis or exile. Lyra's own face appeared, younger, determined, volunteering to become the final guardian as the sanctuary sealed itself against the universe. Suddenly, the torrent changed direction. Marcus saw ships, sleek, deadly, bristling with insignias from a dozen worlds. They converged, drawn by a beacon he now understood all too well. The artifact's awakening had sent out a call, a flare across the void. They've found us, Lyra said, her voice sharp, the warrior's edge returning. Her frill flared wide, and she pulled free from the pool, trembling. The artifact's awakening sent a beacon. They're coming. Marcus jerked his hand from the light, but the connection did not break. The artifact poured tactical data into his mind, approaching vessels, landing vectors, weapons primed. The sanctuary's ancient defenses flickered to life in response, but the threat was overwhelming. Lyra scanned the chamber, eyes wild. We must retreat. There are too many. The defenses are ancient, unreliable at best. Marcus pressed his palm to the ground, trying to steady himself. We can't let them take it. This power destroyed your world. It could destroy more. The artifact's warning echoed in his thoughts, a warning and a plea. Lyra drew her weapon, the alien blade humming with energy. If they breach the sanctum, all will be lost, she said. I will not let my people's sacrifice be in vain. Marcus's mind raced. He could feel the artifact urging him to act, not with violence, but with understanding. It's not just a key, he said, voice urgent. It's a guide. It wants to teach us, to show us how to use this power, not to hoard it. Lyra's eyes narrowed, pain and suspicion warring in her gaze. It drove the guardians mad, she countered, her grip tightening on the hilt. Their minds shattered under its burden. Maybe it was never meant to be hoarded, Marcus replied, desperation in his tone. Maybe it was always meant to be shared. That's why it called out. It needs partners, not masters. The temple shook, dust raining from the crystalline vaults as the first ships landed outside. The symphony in Marcus's mind sharpened, the artifact's fear and hope mingling, propelling him toward decision. Lyra turned to him, her expression vulnerable despite the armor and blade. They will come for us. They will not ask. They will only take. Marcus stood, taking her free hand in his. Then we stand together. We use what we have learned. We show them another way, or we defend this place with everything we are. Her fingers twined through his, scales warm against his skin. I trust you, she whispered, voice shaking. He squeezed her hand, hope and terror mingling in his chest. We do this together, Marcus promised. The sanctuary doors groaned as external forces pressed in. Ancient defenses flickered, columns of light rising from the floor, barriers crackling to life. Beyond, the shadows of armed figures flickered, soldiers from many worlds, united only by greed and desperation. Lyra drew close, her lips brushing his ear. No matter what happens, remember, none of us are meant to be alone. Marcus nodded, heart pounding with conviction and fear. Let's show them what that means. Hand in hand, with the artifact's presence blazing inside them, they turned to face the coming storm, prepared to defend not just a secret, but the possibility of a better future. The temple trembled, ancient stones vibrating as enemy craft touched down with a metallic shriek that echoed through the sanctum. Lyra's blade flickered in her hand, runes pulsing to life along its crescent edge. Marcus's senses, fused with the artifact, stretched outward, beyond the crystal walls, beyond the dust-choked corridors. He felt them, 30 armored soldiers, exosuits humming with stored power, boots slamming the earth as they advanced in disciplined formation. The main gate will slow them, but not for long, Lyra said, her voice taut, eyes fixed on the trembling entryway. The gates of the temple groaned, resisting, but it was only a matter of time before steel and fury broke through. Marcus, guided by this artifact's whispers, felt for the hidden architecture beneath his feet, passages woven into the temple's foundations, dormant defenses waiting for command. This place is a fortress, he said, awe mixing with urgency as he pressed his hand against a crystalline node. The touch sent a surge of light spiraling through the walls. Explosions erupted outside, dull, concussive blasts that rattled the murals and sent shards of crystal raining from the high vaults. Lyra braced for battle, her body coiled and ready. "They'll be inside any moment," she said, voice low. Marcus focused, drawing on the artifact. Suddenly, the ancient systems responded. Walls shifted and slid apart, forming barricades and blind corners. Lights blazed with renewed intensity, bathing the corridor in violet and gold. Defense constructs powered up, humming with anticipation. Patterns of energy flickered beneath the floor, tracing the footsteps of their approaching enemies. Lyra stared at him, astonished. "How?" she whispered, watching as the sanctuary transformed around them. "The artifact holds the minds of every guardian, every builder," Marcus replied, his voice distant, half his consciousness adrift in a sea of memories. "They're helping us. It's like having 1,000 hands guiding mine." The invaders breached the sanctum with a roar, weapons raised, faces obscured behind mirrored visors. The air shimmered with danger. Lyra moved first, a streak of teal and midnight, blade flashing. She deflected plasma blasts with inhuman grace, spun through the ranks, striking with a precision honed by centuries of training. Limbs crashed against armor, sparks flying as energy met energy. Marcus felt the artifact's temptation, a hunger for retribution, for raw destructive power. But he resisted, instead seeking the Creator's vision, the web of knowledge that connected every circuit and stone. He directed energy fields to shield Lyra, triggered columns to collapse and block enemy advance, locked doors and sealed escape routes. Every move, every defense, was guided by the wisdom of the ancients echoing in his mind. The second wave crashed in, larger and more cunning. They brought heavier weapons, projectiles that shook the foundations, grenades that sent gouts of green flame spiraling down the hallways. The bioluminescent veins pulsed and flickered, then began to dim, the temple's life force weakening under the onslaught. "They'll destroy the temple," Lyra realized, breathless as she parried another barrage. She glanced at Marcus, urgency and fear in her eyes. "We can't hold them here." "Follow me," Marcus said, the artifact guiding his steps. He pulled her through a collapsing archway, into a hidden passage veiled in shimmering crystal. The sounds of chaos faded, replaced by a strange, muffled hush. Light danced across the walls in calming patterns. They emerged into a secret chamber, rounded, cocoon-like, the air heavy with stillness. Lyra staggered, her armor rent and smoking along one side. She fell to her knees, clutching her side where blood, iridescent and blue, seeped through her fingers. "Let me see," Marcus insisted, kneeling beside her. He tore away a strip of fabric from his sleeve, pressing it gently against her wound. The artifact's energy pooled in his palm, warming the cloth, slowing the bleeding. His hands were gentle, cradling her as if she might shatter. "You saved me," he said quietly, voice breaking the silence. "You could have left." She looked up at him, her guard faltering for the first time. "I forgot what kindness felt like," Lyra whispered. Her scales shivered beneath his touch, the frill at her neck fluttering with emotion. The vulnerability in her gaze was raw, pain, gratitude, and something deeper. Marcus cupped her face, brushing his thumb along the line of her jaw. For a heartbeat, the chaos outside faded. Their lips met, desperate and soft, passion mingling with fear and hope. The artifact hummed in harmony with their closeness, a resonance that filled the chamber, a note of unity stronger than any weapon. Lyra pulled away, eyes shining. "They're breaking through," she said, her voice both warning and plea. Marcus pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in. "Whatever happens, I don't regret this." "Nor do I," she replied, voice trembling with conviction. Explosions boomed overhead, dust and shards raining from the ceiling. The chamber's crystal pulsed, strained by the violence outside. The artifact's song grew urgent. The sanctuary's systems warning of imminent breach. Through the haze, Marcus and Lyra heard the battle cries of their enemies, dozens of voices united by greed, desperation, and the promise of ultimate power. Soldiers poured through fractured doorways, humans in armored suits, scaled warlords from distant moons, insectoid mercenaries with chittering blades, all driven by the same singular goal. Their weapons gleamed in the uncertain light, eyes fixed on Marcus and Lyra, on the artifact that pulsed between them. Together, Marcus and Lyra rose to meet them, hope and defiance blazing in their eyes as the final battle for the artifact, and for each other, began. A reptilian commander, tall and broad-shouldered, strode through the shattered doorway, flanked by armored soldiers from half a dozen worlds. His scales were obsidian edged with bronze, eyes burning with ruthless calculation. He leveled a plasma rifle at Marcus and Lyra, the barrel steady despite the tremor in the air. The chamber flickered with artifact light, shadows writhing along the crystal walls. "Give us the key," the commander intoned, voice cold and resonant. "And she lives." Marcus knelt beside Lyra, shielding her with his body. She was badly hurt, blood dark and iridescent staining her side. Her breathing was shallow, armor cracked open beneath his makeshift bandages. The artifact pulsed between them, its energy thickening, responding to the desperation that filled the air. "Don't give them what they want," Lyra whispered, eyes fierce despite her pain. "Not for me." "I won't lose you," Marcus answered, voice trembling with love and determination. He clutched her hand, drawing strength from her grip, and from the artifact's radiant warmth. The air vibrated, a silent thunder rolling through the chamber. The artifact's energy surged, filling Marcus with a clarity that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Suddenly, he sensed them all. Every sanctuary scattered across the stars, every artifact humming with dormant power. He felt the bonds that connected them, a web of hope, knowledge, warning. The network had awakened, and he was at its heart. The commander sneered, growing impatient. He lifted his weapon, squeezing the trigger. A lance of searing energy burst from the barrel, roaring toward Marcus and Lyra. But Marcus, fused now with the artifact, raised his hand, palm open. The blast halted midair, coalescing into a crackling sphere of light that hovered before them. The soldiers gasped, stepping back, their faces masked in fear and awe. Marcus rose slowly, power radiating from his every movement. He stood between the invaders and Lyra, the artifact's song resonant in his voice. "You came for a weapon," he called out, his words echoing in the charged silence. "But these artifacts were never meant for destruction. They are meant to be guides." A wave of energy rippled outward. All around, windows opened in space, rippling portals blooming like flowers. Each soldier stared, transfixed, as visions appeared before them. Marcus's mind reached across the network, drawing on the knowledge and memory of countless guardians and builders. Through the windows, the soldiers saw their homeworlds, forests and oceans, cities glimmering with hope, people united in cooperation rather than war. Each world was transformed, not by conquest, but by unity. Enemies became neighbors. Scarred landscapes healed, generations prospered, life blossomed in harmony with the cosmos. The visions were impossibly vivid. Suns rising over peaceful valleys, families reunited, children laughing in fields of silver grass. Weapons wavered, then lowered, as the soldiers fell under the spell of what might be. The artifact's energy pulsed again, this time flowing from Marcus into Lyra. He knelt, pressing his palm gently against her wound, the warmth intensifying. Her breath steadied, eyes fluttering as the pain ebbed and the wound closed, shimmering scales knitting together beneath his touch. The commander's voice cracked, uncertain. "What? What is this sorcery?" Marcus turned to face him, eyes blazing with power and compassion. "It's your choice," he said, voice ringing with conviction. "Take this knowledge. Learn. or fight for a power that will destroy you and everything you love. The artifact's promise is not domination, but understanding. The network offers you a future, one you build together. The silence was absolute, broken only by the distant hum of the temple and the ragged breaths of the soldiers. One by one, they stepped back, weapons falling from their hands. Some wept, overwhelmed by the visions. Others touched the portals, reaching for what they had never believed possible. Fear gave way to longing. Longing gave way to hope. At last, the commander hesitated, torn between pride and the undeniable truth of what he had seen. His weapon trembled, then lowered. He bowed his head, ancient pride dissolving in the presence of something greater. "If this is true," he said, his voice raw, "teach us. Show us how to build this world." Marcus nodded, relief and responsibility settling over him like a mantle. "That is the purpose of the network," he replied. "It was never meant for one. It was meant for all. We will learn, together." The soldiers withdrew, silent and humbled, filing out through the broken doorways, leaving the sanctum bathed in the gentle glow of the artifact. The portals faded, visions lingering in their minds like the memory of a dream. Still kneeling, Marcus turned to Lyra. Her eyes fluttered open, gold and fierce and shining with wonder. The wound at her side had healed, the pain gone, replaced by a radiance that seemed to spill from within. She reached for his hand, entwining her fingers with his, pride and love mingling in her gaze. "You did it," she whispered, voice shaking with awe. He smiled, brushing a lock of hair from her brow. "We did it," he answered, conviction and gratitude in every syllable. The artifact's glow steadied, its song now one of peace, content, at last, to have been understood. Lyra led Marcus through a winding passage, deeper into the heart of the temple, where the chaos of the day could not reach. She guided him to her old quarters, a small chamber carved from living stone, the walls etched with faded glyphs and constellations, traces of bioluminescence glowing softly in the seams. The air was tinged with memories, and a stillness that had not been broken for ages. Her fingertips lingered on the doorframe, as if reacquainting herself with the past. Outside, the world was transformed. The invaders had retreated, leaving only the endless silver dunes under the turquoise sky and Marcus's battered ship resting on the horizon. For the first time since he had set foot on this world, silence reigned, full and whole, not ominous, but expectant. Lyra turned to Marcus, her eyes searching, vulnerable. "What now?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper, as if the future were a fragile thing. Marcus drew her close, arms enveloping her in a protective embrace. He breathed in the scent of her, a mixture of rain, stone, and something uniquely hers. "Now," he said, voice steady with hope, "we help the galaxy learn to unite." The words sounded simple, but in that moment, they felt like a promise that could bend fate. She leaned back against him, feeling the tension begin to melt from her shoulders. A long silence passed, filled only by the soft hum of the artifact somewhere deep in the temple, at peace at last. Lyra's voice trembled, uncertain. "Will you stay?" She turned to face him, scales shimmering in the dim light, eyes wide and honest. "With me? Help me guide this new era?" She searched his face, her frill fluttering in anticipation and doubt. "I've been alone so long. I'm not sure I remember how to be with someone." Marcus cradled her cheek, thumb brushing a pale scar beneath her eye. "We'll learn together," he said, warmth and certainty in his gaze. Their kiss was slow, deliberate, a meeting of souls as much as bodies, a promise spoken in touch. Marcus's hands were gentle as he undid the clasps of her battered armor, piece by piece, until it fell away, revealing the tapestry of her scales beneath, iridescent, marked by old wounds, and impossibly beautiful. He traced the patterns with reverent fingers, feeling the stories written there, battles fought, losses endured, and a strength that had never wavered. Lyra shivered at his touch, drawing in a shaky breath. "I want to remember what it means to be cherished," she whispered, voice raw, "not just to fight." He brushed his lips along her jaw, murmuring, "Let me show you." They moved together, the world narrowing to the hush of the chamber and the rhythm of their hearts. For Lyra, every sensation was new and ancient all at once, a memory of something she had never allowed herself to hope for. Marcus kissed the places where old wounds had healed, worshipping every scar, every flicker of vulnerability. She surrendered to the tenderness, to the quiet passion that banished the ache of centuries spent guarding, longing, waiting. Their bodies found each other in a dance that was both gentle and fierce, urgent and unhurried. For Marcus, there was wonder in every sigh, every brush of her scales against his skin, every way she fit into his arms. He whispered her name like a secret, letting her know with every touch that she was not alone. With each breath, they wove a new story, one of hope and healing, of trust that ran deeper than words. Afterwards, they lay entwined, the glow from the crystal seams painting shifting constellations across their joined bodies. Marcus traced lazy circles along her back, feeling her heart steady beneath his palm. Lyra rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady thrum of his heartbeat, letting herself believe in the safety it promised. In the silence, Marcus felt the artifact stir within him, its presence no longer urgent but serene. He closed his eyes, reaching across the network that now pulsed through his blood. He sensed the first stirrings of cooperation spreading through the galaxy. Worlds that had known only war sent cautious signals of peace. Long isolated colonies reached out for trade and dialogue. Cultures exchanged songs and stories. Emissaries were dispatched instead of fleets. Hope, fragile and bright, flickered from star to star. "The galaxy is changing," Marcus murmured, wonder in his voice. Lyra lifted her head, golden eyes shining in the half-light. "And so are we," she replied. She searched his gaze, her expression softening, a tentative smile curving her lips. "I choose this, Marcus. I choose us." He brushed her cheek, awe and gratitude blooming in his chest. "Always," he promised, voice thick with emotion. He knew the future would not be easy, that wounds could not be healed in a single night, but as long as they faced it together, anything was possible. They held each other, listening to the quiet song of the artifact, a melody of love, trust, and the hope of a new beginning, echoing through the sanctum and out into the waiting universe. That's the end of the story. You can leave us a tip or become a channel member. This greatly helps our team improve the quality of our videos. You can send a tip using the Super Thanks button right below the video. We truly appreciate each and every one of you who has subscribed and supported us. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and write in the comments what you liked most about this story. Our team will be very grateful to you. You can find even more fascinating stories on our channel. See you in the next video.